What's up, Riftdowners? I just got back from a Summoner Skirmish, my first Summoner Skirmish. It was loads of fun, but I am exhausted from playing 4 rounds, best of 3. This was my first Summoner Skirmish I've been to. It was super cool to finally, go from Nexus Night, which is much more friendly, to now going to Summoner Skirmish. And actually, in my opinion, doing pretty well. I got second place, super proud of it, super happy. I feel like that gives, the Lee Sin legend a little more credit. I feel like I always see tier lists with Lee Sin always at the bottom. Everyone's ragging on Lee Sin, not this Summoner Skirmish. People were afraid to go against it. They were like, what is this guy running? Why did he bring this to Summoner Skirmish? But I got second place. I went up against, in this order, Kaisa, Victor, Misfortune, and then Set. So I beat out the Kaisa, Victor, Misfortune, and then I lost to the Set. I actually lost to the Set 0-2, so it was a pretty bad beat out in the last place, but I feel like I went up against all top decks and did pretty good, amazingly. So yeah, this is the deck list I've got going on. I'm going to try to kind of go through it, kind of my thought process on why I picked all this stuff. If you've been following the channel a little bit, you know that this is not where this deck list started, and maybe just some surprise or not, I thought Seals would be really good, but I did not run Seals today. Again, it was Lee Sin as my legend, 6 calm, 6 body. I used green Lee Sin as my my unit card, so I always had that access to it. Pretty much what this deck was trying to do was summon Lee Sin as soon as possible and just buff him up as much as possible, protect the one card I had as much as possible. And yeah, it worked. And also just using a lot of the combat tricks cards to save them. Zonia's Hourglass was really good. That's probably one of the newer cards I've added to this. I did go into this Summer Skirmish thinking I was going to go up against more Kaisa and Annie players. So the one Kaisa I did face was probably one of my more easier matchups, and the matchups I was worried about was Victor and Set. I had only, this was my second time playing against Set, so I had no idea what cards to side in against the Set. I was just kind of more hoping that I wouldn't go up against one, and that ended up being the one that I played in the finals. But nonetheless, let's go through the deck list a little bit. So Defy, Charm, Discipline, I feel like for me, that's probably why you're running green. Personally, those I think are a staple 3 out of 3. Those are why you'd want to run it. I think those are the best cards in the deck, and I never side those in or out. On Guard, it was one of the newest additions to this deck, along with the Zonias. I added those because I found that, for 1 cost, buffing up a unit by 2 might, most of the time my units would be by themselves. So it's just another combat trick I had access to. I would side some of those out. I think I sided out against the Misfortune and the Victor. I didn't side out all 3, I just sided out 1. I'll get to my sides later, but it was one that I wasn't too crazy about. Unyielding Spirit, I only ran 2 of those, but I had another one in the side deck. I main decked this one because I figured that would be best against its Kaisa, and it was. Unyielding Spirit, 1 cost, 1 energy to pretty much nullify all their spells. That seems like a better payoff than Defy in the Kaisa matchup for the most part. They have a couple other spells that, it's not like they're doing damage, but most of their spells are doing damage, and it just seems really good. Rune Prison was possibly something that you could run 3 with, but I just didn't have enough room in it, to be honest. Rune Prison really good against just stunning the big units. Again, this was a good card against Kaisa players, Victor players, because I believe they run Thousand Eyed Watcher. Any big unit cards, this was like an amazing way to just stop them and to keep the game going longer. The longer the game went, the better it was for me. Maybe that's why I'm so tired, because all the games went super long. Like pretty much, we were getting close to time every single time. My brain is just almost dead. Obviously, Discipline, run 3, 2 might, draw 1, just seems too good. It's also a combat trick. This Meditate, I feel like it kind of works really well in the deck because you were pretty much on your back foot the entire time up until your deck can finally get to a point where, your Lee Sin can pretty much one-shot a whole battlefield. So being able to, most of the time, play it for 1 cost, draw a card, channel 1 was good. But also, if you look at the deck list, there is almost no very many active cards you can play turn 1 and turn 2. Turn 2 you can play Kiana most of the times, and if you go second, then you can play Lee Sin pretty much every single time. But I'd sometimes play this just as a 3 cost on my very first turn, just because you're channeling a rune and you're drawing 1, so it wasn't too bad. And then on some occasions, it's for only 1 cost. I would also honestly consider cutting this card, but I just don't know what I'd cut it for. I ran 1 Windwall for additional spell hate towards the Kai'Sa and Annie players, 2 Primal Strength. This is kind of the room of Realm or Rune Prism. I just wasn't sure the best ratio to go with this one. I went with 2. 1's Dragon Rage. I was considering cutting this in the beginning, but I was like, how could you cut the signature spell? It just seemed too good, and it also was a clutch in the Misfortune matchup. I also feel like in set it would be really good too. I just never drew it to play it. I ran one of my side deck for the Misfortune matchup. 2 Sona. Honestly, Sona I feel like is a little underrated on people's radars. You're pretty much refreshing 4 runes every single time she can stay out of battle. You pair Misfortune up with Reaver's Row, and Reaver's Row is pretty much when you defend, you can move 1 unit back, which is, no one understood why I ran this battlefield, but once you understand how this deck works, in the sense that you just have 1 unit and you're just trying to protect that 1 unit the entire time, aka that be Sona or Lee Sin or sometimes Udyr, having the ability to, when you defend, move a unit back, pretty much is your get out of jail free card. I feel like this Reaver's Row is perfect for this deck, and I don't know if there's any other like Protect the King decks, but Reaver's Row just seems perfect for that, because if they try to push him with a Darius with Dynamite or a Thousand Eyed Watcher, you don't even have to pay a spell. You just literally keep your unit on that battlefield and move it back. So Sona being able to either just stay at a battlefield she could just be at that battlefield by herself and just refresh you 4 runes and a turn. And in this deck where you're trying to do a bunch of combat turns, being able to have an additional 4 runes every single turn, if she's, if you just summon her on top of the battlefield, you're already getting the 4 runes you paid for her back. And then if a second turn goes by, you're just printing runes, and having the ability to play runes on your opponent's turn is probably the key part about this deck. I could go into more deck detail on like how to play this deck in another video if you guys wanted to, because I really feel like there's a lot of intricacies, and it took me a long time to figure out the identity of this deck and to figure out what's the best way to play it. And I feel like it was very counterintuitive on how I initially thought Riftbound was supposed to be played. And I feel like now, once I went to so many Nexus Nights, and now after going to this Summoner Skirmish, I do think I have like a much better understanding of how this deck should be played, the strengths, the weaknesses, when to push in, when to push out. So yeah, moving on. 3 Kiana. 3 Kiana is just so good. It's outside of summoning Lee Sin as soon as possible. Kiana's another one. It's got deflect. It's great against Kai'Sa Annie players. Anything that really targets. It also gives you the option to either channel or draw 1. I feel like I thought this deck wanted mobilize Catalyst of Aeons, but this is more of a mid-range deck. That's why I took out the seals, just because you don't really need as many runes as you really think. You just need enough runes up to protect your units, and most of the combat tricks are pretty cheap spells. So most of the time with Kiana, you'd be using her Conqueror to draw 1. Occasionally you do it to exhaust, but it's just an annoying card for a lot of players to deal with. With Lee Sin buff, it goes up to 5. So just really good card to speed up the deck a little bit and just give you another unit to play. It's like just another active unit to play. And then of course, triple green Lee Sin, my boy. The reason this whole deck really exists is to pretty much just every turn, keep tapping him. He gets stronger and stronger. Tap your legend, just free, buffs on buffs on buffs. To touch on it quickly, I played 3 Arena Bar, and if you get that card out turn 1, turn 2 you're playing Lee Sin. That's 2 buffs every single turn you're Lee Sin, and eventually Lee Sin just gets too strong and no one can really take him out outside of the yellow decks, which is why I had such a hard time with Victor and Set, because they just have the instant kill cards. I can get into that later. Dead Bloom Predator. I would consider cutting this card. This is the card I probably sided out in most of the matchups that I needed the room for, but it just kind of occasionally a good card. I did have some good moments, had some bad moments with it. 3 Udyr, the second best boss monster. Pairing this up with your legend ability of buffing a unit every turn, plus Arena Bar. This card just has so many options. If you think of Udyr as a pseudo orange Lee Sin, it pretty much does the same thing. If you just use your legend and then ready him, that's a 7 cost 1 energy to be readied 6 might unit. It's pretty much the same thing as orange Lee Sin. I feel like orange Lee Sin is pretty overrated. I don't know why people use them when Udyr's in the game, because not only can you use the buff to ready him, you can use it to stun, super good, deal 2 damage, which works out in a couple of occasions. He just has so many different options and flexibility when you run him. That's why I have him at 3. Never sided him out. 3 Zhonya's. I thought this card sucked at first when I first saw it, but it's actually really good once I realized this deck is all about protecting Lee Sin and the few units you have. Honestly, you don't even need to hide it. It's a great card to see turn 1 because you have no other plays but besides Zhonya's and Arena Bar. Yeah, those are your only... Oh, and a Meditation. Those 3 different cards, those are what you want to see on turn 1. Mainly, Zhonya's, just play Zhonya's for 2 costs. You can even use it. Zhonya's being my only, if I go first turn, Zhonya's being my only turn 1 player. Super amazing. If I was going first, I'd pretty much always hard mulligan to find Zhonya's or Arena Bar. Having Obelisk of Power kind of makes this a little bit flexible, because if I start with Obelisk of Power, then I pretty much have 3 runes on my first turn, 4 runes if I was going second, so that would give me Kiana options. But yeah, knowing which battlefield you're using can also help you kind of understand like which cards you're kind of hard mulliganing for. So there's a little bit of learning curve on that. Sideboard, I decided to go with 3 Sabotage, 1 Unyielding Spirit, 3 Cannon Barrage, 1 Dragon's Rage. The matchups I would side these cards in, the Sabotage was for Misfortune to get rid of Aurora, the gear. Let's see. Also, I played against any yellow decks to get rid of I'd pretty much try to get rid of the spells in their hand for the instant kill ones, the Coal of the Week, Hidden Blade. I think there's one other one. So pretty much for the Aurora matchup and any yellow decks. Unyielding Spirit, I'd throw in if I was facing against a Kaisa or Annie, or maybe even like Teemo, any pretty much heavy spell damage decks. Cannon Barrage, I had the idea of Cannon Barrage. I wasn't sure because I've never used Cannon Barrage before. Was pretty much purely for the Victor matchup. I was most worried against Misfortune, Victor, and I guess Set, because I never really played against it. So this was purely for the Victor because I thought I'd see one. I did go up against the Victor, and this card was amazing. I was debating on just using Blade, Phantom Blades, the one that deals 1 damage to all units at battlefields, but I decided to go with Cannon Barrage because I wasn't sure if the 2 damage was needed, and let me tell you, it was so needed. I feel like definitely if you're debating between Phantom Blades, the ones that deal 1 damage, or this one, 2 damage, definitely run this one, unless you just need the 1 damage for some reason, but I definitely would say just play this one over it. And then Dragon's Rage was for the Misfortune matchup set, and I think that was about it. I would swap out the Dead Bloom Predator, Dragon's Rage, and On Guard, and Unyielding Spirit, depending on what I'd match up. Those are pretty much the cards I'd be siding in and out for. Some key moments I would say was, against the Kaisa, I just felt like this deck I played smart enough where I really wouldn't summon any units unless I had protection ready. I feel like that's a big learning thing for anyone that wants to try this deck, is do not summon a unit unless you have a Defy, a Zhonya's, something that's going to stop the Unyielding Spirit, something that's going to stop spells. Especially if you know you're going up against a Kaisa or Annie where you know that they have some sort of spell that could kill them instantly. Because once you pretty much lose your Lee Sin, it's game over unless you have another one in your hand, and you can't really rely on that. So you're pretty much giving up the first 3 turns in order to gain enough runes so that you can summon Lee Sin and then have enough runes after that to protect it. If you're lucky enough, you can draw Zhonya's, and then you don't have to worry about that. But that was, I think, maybe the biggest thing I needed to learn, was just be patient for the first 3 turns, get enough runes. You're pretty much giving up 3 or 4 points in the beginning, which seems crazy at first, but that's why Meditate usually is going to be a 1 cost. Where was I going? So yeah, Kaisa matchup wasn't too bad. The next matchup I had was up against a Victor, which I lost the first matchup. I lost the first game because he literally either used Hidden Blade or Coal, or a combination of those 3 times, and he pretty much killed off my units 3 times, and I just made the mistake of not having a spell or something to protect it. And then in game 2, I sided in my Cannon Barrage, and that absolutely destroyed all the tokens because it was the Victor deck where you're just spamming as much tokens as possible. And with Cannon Barrage, it doesn't care how many tokens that person has, they're all dying. That game went to game 3 and won it. That guy was super distraught about losing. I don't think he was expecting to lose to Lee Sin deck. Third game, went up against Misfortune. He never drew Aurora the first game, so I won that one. He still dropped 3 Mind Splitters on me, which was like crazy. Second game, I sided in my Sabotage, and with the Sabotage, I was actually able to time out his Aurora when he drew it, and I was actually able to use Sabotage to get rid of the Aurora. That was probably the only way I was going to win that one. So I actually won 2-0 against the Aurora player. But I did learn for the Aurora matchup, you pretty much want to dump your hand as fast as possible. Otherwise, at least the person I was going up against, he plays with 3 Sabotage and 3 Mind Splitters, and then also the monster that like Resurrection. So he's pretty much just like destroying your hand while also just getting monsters out every single turn. So I learned against him, you just try to play as many cards as possible so they can't just discard your hand. Fourth matchup, set player. That's probably like the second time I ever played against a set. Pretty tough matchup, and I don't know the solutions. I was worried about the set matchup, and I was rightfully worried because I just did not have too many answers. First game was rough. He pretty much beat me pretty badly. Second game, I only drew units, which is crazy because I don't have many units, and so I don't want to blame it on bricking my hand, but I just didn't have a good enough hand. And he even used Sabotage, and he even told me like, "Wow, your hand is not very good." So he knew it, but it was even with that, it was still a little bit closer, but he still took it 2-0. He was a really good player, so congratulations to him. Still got second place. So yeah, guys, that's it. I'm exhausted, but also excited about it. I might do another one tomorrow. I don't know if I'd make any tweaks. Let me know in the comments, guys, if you like the deck, what you would tweak about it. What should I add to the deck to beat set players? I'm not sure. I think I've got the answers for the Victor, the Misfortune, and the Kaisa players. I'm really happy with it in that matchup. There's not too many cards where I'm like, oh, I didn't like it. Hot Tamale Takeaway. Notice there's no Mobilize. I think Mobilize is bait. Same with Catalyst Eons, unless you're running Aurora. I do not think Mobilize or Catalyst Eons is that good. I took it out of this deck because from past Nexus Knights, I learned that it was pretty much like dead in my hands most of the time. So I swapped those in for the Unyielding Spirit and Zonias, and I think I switched out some other things. But so you guys, second place, I'm super happy about it. Got my free pack of Nexus Knight, plus the participation stuff, so that's super cool. Might go for another one. I did have a lot of fun, but also just super exhausting. I don't know about you guys, but after four matches of best of 3, my brain is just shot. So that's it, guys. Like and subscribe if you want to see more of this. If you were following all the way through, you kind of saw how I progressed in the deck, and this is where we came to. This is for my first Summoner Skirmish, and to get second, I'm super proud of myself. I'm super happy. I'm really enjoying the game. I hope all you Lee Sin players out there, this gives you the confidence to take it to a Summer Skirmish, take it to regionals. Come on, Lee Sin players, let's all rise up together. And let me know in the comments for tips. I'm all open for constructive criticism and opinions. I want to make this deck better. If there's something that you think I should add, get rid of, let me know. I'd love to talk to you guys, get some communication going. So, all right, hot tamale, guys. See you in the next one.